The Quo-Cast, a Status Quo fan podcast.
This is Jamie Dyer welcoming you to another edition of The Quo-Cast. And for the first time ever on the podcast, we have the result of an exclusive fan poll. About 3 weeks ago, I asked Quo fans on various forums and the podcast page to name their top 5 studio albums by Status Quo. I gave them a few weeks and the poll closed on the 30th of January 2021. A separate source then compiled this data together to make a list of the top 10 studio albums by the mighty Quo as selected by over 100 fans. Before I reveal the results, here is how that data was collated. So the first thing to say here is only studio albums were eligible for this list, as I felt the addition of live albums and compilations would alter the result and confuse matters. I also wanted to leave open the possibility of having a poll on those at a later date, although I think we all know that the 70s live album would top any poll that I conducted. I understand that posts like this crop up all the time on those groups, and people have certain ways of filling them in. For this one, I asked something very specific. I knew that a few that got back to me would write their usual list, and so I made this rule. For every list that featured a non-eligible album, such as a live album or a compilation, the rest of their choices would still be counted and scored. Only a few lists weren't counted as part of the top 10 overall list, as it wasn't clear which albums were assigned to which positions. Now, here is a breakdown on the scoring system. For each album in a top 5 from a fan, a number of points were awarded. 1 for position 5, 2 for 4, 3 for 3, 4 for 2, and 5 points to the number 1 position. Now, without further ado, here is the top 10 Status Quo albums as chosen by over 100 fans. At number 10, we have the 2002 album Heavy Traffic, which scored 25 points. At number 9, we have the 1981 album Never Too Late, which scored 30 points. At number 8, the 1970 album Ma Kelly's Greasy Spoon, which scored 41 points. At number 7, Whatever You Want from 1979 is at that position with 48 points. Dog of Two Head is at number 6 with 59 points. We start the top 5 with 1976's Blue for You, which scored 141 points. At 4, it's on the level from 1975 with 222 points. Into the top 3 now, and it's an absolute classic at number 3 with Pile Driver from 1972, which scored 294 points. At number 2, it's the number 1 album from 1973, Hello, which scored 317 points. And at number 1, with 320 points, that means only 3 points higher than the number 2 position, is the 1974 album Quo. Now let me be the first to say that was a huge surprise to me when all of that was collated and the final result was shown. But, you know, I have a feeling that if a few extra fans had joined in, maybe Hello would have been at number 1. Or maybe Quo is a favourite. I did look down the list and there nearly a lot of them had Quo in the list. So I think it's a case of, you know, those points really mounted up. So, do you agree with the result of this poll? And if you didn't take this poll, what would be in your top 5 or your top 10? And also, if I did a top 10 poll of the studio albums, would this result be different? Because let me tell you that just outside of the top 10, we have Backbone at 11 with 23 points. So it was only 2 or 3 points away from Heavy Traffic of making it into the top 10. That might be because it's the new album, as it were. But the one below that with 18 points, Rock Till You Drop, Just Supposing at number 13 with 13 points. And then Quid Pro Quo at 14 with 11 points, and then In the Army Now is at 15 with 10 points. Now, obviously, all of this was collected together via people's top 5s, but as I say, the top 10, it might have been a different story. Who knows? But I'd like to say thank you so much to everybody who took part in this poll, and I look forward to conducting them again in the future.